But I just met you, and I'm really, really excited to hear you and what you have to say. But you're a friend of Mandy.
Yes, one of my besties.
I know, I love you. I'm so happy
This is
you're
a
here.
treat. Yeah, thank you, friend. Yeah.
So Mandy's going to ask some questions here, and we're just going to interview you. But honestly, we're just going to have conversation. And so, let's just go out there and throw this together, Mandy.
Okay, so Rachel is one of my favorite people, though. Like, literally, when I think about my favorite people, you're on the list. And Rachel and I met about 5 years ago at a time that I needed you. Like, I really needed you, but I didn't even know I needed you. You know, like, God just, I feel like, placed you in my life at this amazing, pivotal time. I had decided I wanted to be a writer, like, full time. And Rachel was and is like an actual writer, professional. Like, she did it for a living. And I was like, I didn't even know that people did that. Like, you're a speechwriter? What? Like, it was so cool to meet you because I honestly just truly thought that you were so cool because, like, you got paid to write. And that was what I wanted to do.
My mom thought the same thing. When I got my first full-time writing job, she told everybody.
Yeah. Yes. Like, even I remember your birthday party very early on. Gosh, it was like probably right after we met.
Yeah.
I met your family and your dad was asking how I knew you. And I was like saying everything else but writer because I was like afraid to say, oh, I'm a writer. I feel like such an imposter. But then finally Meredith Boggs, one of our other friends, was like, oh, Mandy knows her because she's a writer.
Yeah.
Like, you're writing friends. I'm like, okay, I just need to say I'm a writer.
Yeah.
But anyway, I feel like God just placed our friendship in my life at such a pivotal time. And I'm really thankful for you. And I'm so excited to talk about your journey and hope, specifically and unmet longing. And one of the things I'd love for you to share is, you know, you wrote a whole book about hope and unmet longing. So I would love for listeners to hear what led you to that place of wanting to write a book about that.
Thank you so much, friend. And you are a writer. You belong. You've grown so much, and I'm just amazed to see not only your skills as a communicator develop, but your confidence in your identity in that. So
Thank you.
Great. Yeah. So in fact, the summer that we met, that you were just mentioning in that birthday party specifically, it was COVID summer. The world had shut down. I think we were breaking a lot of laws by hanging out, but it was on a rooftop and we were trying to be safe. It was this really cool spot overlooking the downtown Nashville, land or skyline, and the lights were twinkling, and like I had all of these new friends. I just moved to Nashville like less than a year before, and I had all these amazing new friends in my life, including you, Mandy, and it was beautiful. We danced. There was, of course, cake and presents and wine, and it was just like a really incredible night. And at the same time, it did not look like what I thought my 30th birthday would look like. Growing up, I grew up in a very, very Christ-centered home. We on the conservative end, for sure. And all I ever wanted to be was a wife and a mom. I had no like career aspirations. I didn't even like think through the process of like making money for myself someday. I just I'm gonna get married. I'm gonna have babies. It'll be great. And soon after graduating college, and that was not happening. And I just had to realize, grapple with this new reality. And navigating dating for over a decade, throughout the 20s into early 30s. If anybody listening right now is in that world and is dating, it's painful. It's really rough. It's a really hard time.
Listen, I've got 4, and then they're anywhere from 24 to 27, and I can't imagine.
Totally. I think there's probably a lot of moms listening right now who feel that heartache for their daughter or their son, and it's really hard. So while I had this amazing, fun birthday experience, and I really embraced turning 30 as well as I could, leading up to that night, there was a lot of grieving. There was a lot of heartache because I was like, I'm very single, and there's no
process.
Yeah. And I thought by this point I'd be married with a child or two, something like that. And so that summer, when we started our writing group, which ended up being super successful, one of the biggest blessings of my life, meeting for 5 years, it was an amazing time. I also, that summer, started what now is my book, When It Hurts to Hope. I just started to pour out my frustration on a blank Word document. And, the quiet of the world shutting down, that gave me some extra time. And I was just wrestling with, it felt like this longing to be a wife, to be a mom, to have these dreams come true. It felt like it was taking a life of its own. And I didn't know what to do with it. I didn't have good, proper theology, emotional tools, emotional wellness to like relate to that inside of me. And so what the book is all about. How do you deal well with prolonged seasons of disappointment, whether that's singleness, whether that's childlessness? It could be a career frustration, the desire to publish a book someday.
Yeah.
It could be, it could be, we were just talking earlier about friendship, or even things that you have, even if you have the marriage, you have the kids, there's still unmet longing because your life can still not really look like you thought it would. So that's the origin of like where the book came out of.
So you talked about, like we have these expectations. Like you thought you would be married with kids, maybe you had a farm. I don't know, like to have chickens. But we create these expectations in our mind. And then when life doesn't pan out that way, it can really hurt. It can really be painful. And I think what's interesting is we have the holidays coming up. And I always feel like the holidays, it's almost like a magnifying glass on the unmet longing or like what you don't have, right? Yeah. Like whether that's a broken relationship or like what you're saying, you want the relationship and it's not there yet. Or I mean, the list could go on and on. So when you think about people who are maybe feeling that ache, how do you think we can approach a holiday season that might kind of look rough right now? Like their outlook is not good. Like they're not feeling it. They don't want to hear about hope. Like what encouragement could you give to someone who is feeling that ache?
Right. The first thing I would say is to validate. It's very natural as human beings to put significance and meaning on these different milestones that we experience in our lives. Psychologists call them temporal landmarks, like time-wise, and these kind of moments in time. That could be like for me, turning 30. It's Thanksgiving around the table. It's Christmas morning. It's whatever anniversary or, marker of an event. So first of all, just recognizing that you are a creature that needs meaning and significance. God made you that way. And along with that is to validate the hope and the desire in your chest. I think this is one of the hardest things. Think about it like you're on a road trip and your desire, whatever it is, that unmet longing that you have that can feel really heavy and hard sometimes, is a passenger with you in the car, like on this road trip of life. Now, you could choose to it's there, it's kind of asking and asking and asking, and it's not happening yet. So you can approach this one or two ways. You can say, all right, get out of the car. Yeah. And you can pretend you're not going to do this, but you can pretend like it doesn't exist. Spoiler alert, it doesn't go away because God designed you, deeply embedded these longings in you. But the other thing you could do is you could give that desire like the wheel. You could let it drive, and it could make decisions for you and lead you to places you don't want to go. And so I think as you're approaching the holidays, it's so hard. But I would suggest to find ways to honor the desire and have your cry session, wipe your tears up, and get up and go have a good Christmas. It's both and. You can't ignore it and stifle it, but you also can't overindulge it because the reality is God gave you this life. The life you're living is not plan B. This is plan A. God gave you this very life. And so there does come a point after we are honest and we are, sad and heartbroken and angry and all those things, there does come a point of surrender to say, okay, God, what do you have for me this Thanksgiving? What do you have for me this Christmas? Maybe a child is estranged and that is heartbreaking. Okay, grieve that. And who else is there for you to love, for you to open up your home and welcome in? So I think it's both and. I don't think you need to ignore it, but I also don't think those disappointments should call the shots.
So this is sort of an off the cuff question, but I know you've talked a lot about lamenting. So where does the lamenting fit in this process? In your opinion?
The Book of Lamentations 2:19 has a great picture. It says, pour out your heart like water in the presence of the Lord. So think about tipping over a glass, whatever's in it is just going to come out. I think that lament is a form of prayer that's not talked about or taught or practiced by a lot of believers. The Book of Lamentations is it's icky. I mean, it's rough. Some really, really hard things are in there. And what I love about the way that the book is written too is it ends on a question. It ends with the author saying, God, have you abandoned us forever? And so I think that lament, if you are in a season of prolonged disappointment, lament should be part of your spiritual discipline. Maybe it's not something you do every day, but what it is, it's just being 100% honest, like that water image, whatever's in there, allow it to come out. because God knows anyway. He
Yeah.
knows. He's not surprised by your doubt, your anger, your rage, your lonely. He's not surprised by anything. And so that could just be 2, 5, 10 minutes of prayer, on your knees in a closet, journaling, whatever that looks like. It's scary to go there, especially if you've never done it. Like, it can be pretty terrifying. So it might be something also that you want to do with a professional, especially if you're grieving with something really big. But yeah, that is a huge tool in our toolbox that we don't really pull out and use like we could.
I remember you wrote a devotion called a holy ugly cry. And I'll just never forget it, because to me, when I think lament, that's what I think of. Like just an ugly cry with God.
Yep.
But I love how you said that it's actually really brave to do that and just say, you know what, God, here I am. Yeah. I'm really lamenting this loss, this desire that's unmet. I'm lamenting with you. But what's so beautiful is that God does not sit in heaven and just like point at you and say whatever. Like, he's next to you in the lamenting. He's with you. He's mourning. Like, I think we lose sight of that too when we're hurting. Like, Jesus is with you. He is mourning with you. Like, his heart breaks with you. And so I think that there's encouragement even in the lament, that you're not lamenting alone.
Yep.
So that always encourages me too, because life can feel so lonely. Like, it really can. Even we were talking in friendships.
Yeah.
I think it is. It's like you look at it where I just was talking about, I did a speaking thing with women, and it was really about Psalm 121 and where does my help come from? My help comes from the Lord. And I think we get into this place of where the weight of stuff is so heavy that we forget where our help does come from, because we're women. We want to fix things. We want to do things. We want to make it right. And so that pressure of whatever the circumstances is, it could be loss. It could be grief. It could be disappointment. And if we sit in that, I find that is definitely where our mind wrestles with it. And we have two choices. We either can run or we can wrestle. And I think when we wrestle with it, we actually are saying, God, I surrender. I surrender what this is and what this feels like. And so speak to that woman that is in that place of, she's got a lot going on in life. The weight of it is so heavy. And where you can give her that glimpse of just hope to say, you know what, it's not forever. Because I think that's where we feel. We feel like when we're stuck in this place of hard, we feel like it's forever and we're going to be here forever. So speak to that woman.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I feel that so deeply. When I was in that season of writing the book and then still navigating like dating, I really thought, I was like, this is it. I'm going to die alone. I'm never going to have anybody in my house for Thanksgiving. Speaking of the holidays, I'm going to have no kids, no grandkids. And I really thought it was forever. I'm happily married now. Happy to say that.
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert. So on the one hand, what I would say to that person is like, I think you do have to go there in terms of like, what is the worst case scenario? In fact, I'll tell a quick story about that. When I was in my mid-20s, I just made some choices in my life that were a bad relationship choice, tons of stress at work. I was living in a house with too many women, honestly, too many roommates. And
all opinions.
yes.
Right?
Oh my gosh. Not enough parking or space in the fridge. And so my mental health was mental and spiritual health was in a really bad place. I had a really bad panic attack one day, and somehow going home from work, somehow nobody was home, kind of miraculously. So I could just kind of be and like vent. I was very scared. Called some friends, called my parents. They dropped their plans immediately, came over. And as I stopped hyperventilating, my mom kind of held me. And my dad just after a little bit, he was like, so what are you afraid of? I was like, oh, I'm afraid of this. I'm afraid of this. And I started listing off. I'm afraid of dying alone. I'm afraid of like this choice I've made that I feel shame about. I'm afraid of this. And Dad was like, if all those fears played out, like say you don't meet someone, say that this career choice goes this way, like, do you still believe God is good? Like if the worst thing happens, do you still believe God is good? And I think I don't want to skip to the happy ending too quickly. Like I don't want to skip over the fact that some people are living, I was talking to a dear friend this morning who's going through unbelievable suffering right now. Some people are living the worst thing. And so I don't say that to scare this person that's in this spot, but I do say it to be realistic, like deep bedrock. Do you believe God is good no matter the suffering? And you have to zoom out of this temporary free, it's like maybe it's 5 years until that child comes home. Maybe it's 10 years before you get remarried after your divorce. I don't know. But zooming way out, we know how the story ends. We know that one day God is going to wipe away every tear. And so I think that you can't have that conversation about hope without the eternal perspective.
Right.
Because for some people, their story doesn't end well here.
Right.
And that doesn't make for a great book, but it's the truth, right? And
It
the
is the
Bible's
truth.
full of that.
Yeah.
It's interesting to hear that and kind of sit with too, because if you don't have Jesus, if you don't have faith, then this really is as good as it gets. And on the flip side, this is as bad as it gets. You know, this is
So true.
as bad. Well, you don't have hope. Basically, is what I'm saying. It does get worse because your fate is, not heaven.
Right.
But I think as believers, we do have hope. And I think that we forget about that, though, because we do get so zoned in on whatever's in front of us that's really hard. That I think that is almost like a practical takeaway of hey, can you zoom out in your quiet time for however long? Zoom out. Remember eternity. Remember Jesus. Remember the cross. Look to past miracles. I've been reading a lot in the Old Testament for school and just reading through even the 12 stones, remembering God's faithfulness in Joshua, and just these things that people did to remind themselves of God and his sovereignty and his power. And so when you're talking about that, it made me think too, we need to remind ourselves of that. Not just be so zoned in here, but also make an effort to remember, wait, God is good. God is good. And when we look at everything, can we still say he's good? And I think yes.
Yes.
Once we look at everything, the answer is yes.
Yeah.
I mean, I have goosies just thinking about it.
Well, and I think the older we get, the less that you have doubt or fear, because you remember more for what he's done through you and for you. Because I think it's one of those turning points when you can walk into your 20s. In our 20s, we're invincible. We can do whatever. We don't need God so much as we are trying to figure out what life's going to look like. In our 30s, there's some things that we're wait, there's some unmet expectations here that we start feeling, okay, I'm getting older and I don't exactly, this wasn't the plan, Lord. And our prayers change, right? And we start asking more of the Lord in a way that says, okay, well, hold on. I had it this way and you're telling me that that's not happened because, whatever the timeline was. And you get into your 40s and 50s, I think it just gets to this place of where the remembrance is so much greater because you've done life longer, you've done life harder. And I think that's the hope that for me, I find in a way that says, man, God, you've done so much for me.
Yeah.
He's got a track record.
Exactly.
Yeah.
How do I not trust you in this? That I know I may not like the outcome, but I know that you desire better for me. So how am I to sit there and go, oh no, this is what's best for me when God already tells me that he'll give me the cattle on the hill? I mean, he's going to give me the best. So I think if we get into this mindset and our mental health, where it does, it's like the enemy can come in and give us that place of, well, you're not married by such and such date. I watch my kids and I already see, 25, 26, and I'm not married yet, Mom. You already had your kid, you're already having a baby. And but that doesn't mean that God's not going to use you and God's not done with you. He still has plans. It's just going to look different. And I think those are the things that keep us hopeful in knowing that my plans are different than his, and his ways are higher than our ways.
Yeah.
And so we have to keep that in focus.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
So one thing I shared with you actually this week when we met was I heard the line at church. I wish I could remember which pastor said it, but he said, to wait well is to contend. And when I think about this topic, I just think that it's waiting, and it's waiting. You either wait well or maybe you don't. So again, this is a little off the cuff, but what would it look like if somebody's in a waiting season this season?
Yeah.
What does it look like to wait well and to contend?
Wow. That's a great question. time is going to pass one
Yeah.
way or the other, whether you get what you want or you don't, or it happens when you hope it does or it doesn't. So I think a great question to ask yourself is, who am I becoming? Like, if it is, in my case, if it is like, I want to be married, am I becoming a better woman in the
Yeah.
meantime? Am I becoming somebody who will be able to receive the gift of marriage and it will be a blessing and not a burden because of my immaturity? So I think asking yourself, who am I becoming? Am I becoming more like Christ? Am I allowing this suffering to refine me? Or am I becoming less like him? One thing that I write about in the book is just, I really believe that the choice, we kind of equate the word hope with like wish. Like, well, I hope he calls. I hope he this. I hope my child this. Whereas in the Bible, biblical hope is actually like a very reasonable choice. It's like, I have good reason to hope. Like, I know God's character and I have every reason to put confidence in this thing. It's not foolish. It's not pie in the sky, but it does require faith. And Hebrews says that faith is the assurance of things we cannot see.
Yeah.
So I believe that the choice to hope, even for those good gifts that God has for you, earthly gifts that are a blessing, I believe that the choice to hope is an act of courage.
Yeah.
For
Yeah.
me, after meeting my husband, enjoying a little bit of being married, got a later start in life. So we want to have kids, and, we were struggling with infertility for 2 years. And after you've waited, I'm like, God, I wrote a whole book on this,
Yeah. Why do I have to live it?
Yeah, I need to write a sequel. It still hurts. But in the choice of every month when my period comes, it's just like the heartbreak and the you start to feel kind of dead inside if you don't make the conscious choice to hope. So one time when I was talking to a therapist about this, we came to this idea, what would it look like for you to go and get excited about the possibility of having a child? You haven't even let yourself go there because it's so painful. And so I went to Target and I bought a little boy outfit, newborn. I bought a little girl outfit. And I think they're tangible reminders. Sometimes I get them out and I look at them and I just hold them and I think I hope God has this for me. And I'm not putting my hope in it, but I am hoping for it.
Right.
So I think that ultimately too, we can misplace our hope into the gifts God gives us. And he's a good dad. He loves to give us that stuff. But as any married, we know we're all here, all of us are married, your husband's not the answer. You've lived it. And so you also have this reality check of you can get the thing, you can get the job, you can get the child, you can get the house, you can whatever. And there's still this kind of emptiness, a disappointment by the way your husband spoke to you or by your house doesn't look exactly like you thought. All of this stuff, because that is not the answer.
Right.
And so I think practically speaking, in the waiting, if you can create such a deep foundational relationship with the Lord where he is your delight and you have that sweet intimacy with him that will bolster you for whatever life has, good or bad. I think that that's a huge way, like you said, to contend. Waiting is not passive.
Right.
Hope is not passive. They are active choices every day to wake up and say, God, I want you to conform me to the image of your son. And that includes using the suffering that I'm going through right now.
Yeah. I love that. Were you going to say something, sorry?
No, I think it's the waiting is that molding process and that pruning process too. And I think when we come out of our waiting, I mean, the goodness of God, of the revelation of what we've walked through, man, we're unstoppable. We get to a place of where there's a confidence in Christ that I believe women have when we get through that season of waiting, that we can really glean and go, okay, I've got hope here.
Yeah.
And I've been refined, I've been pruned, and I can see that the depth of my roots, because of what's been poured into me, what I've sought God for, what I'm really kind of trying to stay focused in is that hope and knowing that I know where God's got me at.
Yeah.
And so I think there's an encouragement there for a lot of us, especially through the holidays right now, where it doesn't, things again, may not appear the way that you think they are supposed to look, but you're right. The hope that we can hold on to, it's a fruit of the Spirit.
Yeah.
I mean, so we've got to really hold on to understanding that he holds our hope.
Yeah. Hope is a person.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
So, okay, for someone who is dreading Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
They're dreading Christmas.
Yeah.
They're like, I hate it all. I don't want to go
Yeah.
to whatever party. What is your encouragement for them? Just just like baseline, because maybe they don't want to hear it, but like,
Right.
what could you tell them?
Yeah, totally. I think that there's a difference between being kind to yourself and knowing when you need a little bit of like self-care in a godly way and being like just kind of growing up.
Yeah.
And like I don't want to say like there have been times in my journey, with singleness or with infertility where it's like, it's really painful to go to a baby shower or
Right.
it's painful to be a bridesmaid again or whatever. And you just have to work through everything you're feeling, and you have to like name it and own it and allow it to, once again, going back to that car analogy, your emotions are information, but they're terrible driving directions.
Totally,
like
yeah.
you cannot allow what you feel to dictate like how you act. And so I do think I want to validate and honor that anger, that sadness, that frustration, but also like really it's like going back to the basics of like, how do I want people to show up for me? Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Recognize that you are a part of a community, whatever that looks like, whatever your family situation, your friend, your church situation. And so really, honestly, getting your eyes off of yourself and onto others as a way of serving can transform your entire experience. Obviously, if you're walking into something toxic or you need to set a boundary with a person who's asking you annoying questions about the thing that's hurting you, like I'm all for that as well. But once again, to me, it comes back to the tension. When I was growing up, I got this magazine called Highlights. Did you ever read
my
that?
kids get that.
Okay. Oh, it's still around.
My grandma Joyce sends it to the
Oh, that's
kids
adorable.
every single month. They get so
I have
excited.
a Grandma Joyce.
No way. We haven't
We talked about this?
yet.
Oh my gosh. Yay, Grandma Joyce. So I don't know if they still do this in the magazine, but they always had like a little activity. It was like spot the difference in these two pictures.
Oh yeah, they still have it.
Okay, great. And so you go and circle. This is what I'm comparing it to. I'm circling all the things. Well, we're doing that all the time in our lives subconsciously. Like I have a picture of what Christmas will look like. And life gives you a different picture. There's going to be a bunch of differences. Sometimes it's not even the same picture. And to steal from my friend, Dr. John Deloney, who's a mental health expert, he and his wife have a practice of asking each other, what is your picture of blank? Like, what's your picture of today? What's your picture of Christmas? And so my picture is like, I visualize all the kids are waking up at this time and we're having cinnamon rolls and then we're reading the Christmas story and then we're opening presents. And that way you can, as a team, be on the same page about what you're trying to accomplish. But it also is a way to acknowledge and say with open hand, like, this is my picture, but I understand life doesn't always happen the way I want it to. And so I need to be flexible. So maybe for yourself, if you're married or if you have kids, you want to ask, like, go through that exercise. What's my picture of Thanksgiving?
Yeah.
What's my picture of Christmas? If you're single, journaling or getting clear about that and working to make that picture true, but also understanding like, you're not God. The world doesn't revolve around you. And so what can you do when things change and you need to be flexible about plans and all of that?
Yeah.
So, Rachel, it's so funny you're talking about that because this is bringing to mind an experience Kyle and I had early on in our marriage. We got married in May, and then that first Christmas, we went to his family's house. His parents are divorced, so we drove to South Georgia, and then we drove to Atlanta, and then we were home. And then that next year, we went to Wait, did we go to Florida? We spent the holidays. Oh, no. We went to Ohio to be with my grandma, and then also my side of the family. But after those 2 Christmases, we were just spent on traveling. We were just tired, and we didn't have any kids at the time, but neither Kyle or I felt it on our hearts to travel specifically for Christmas. And I remember feeling so much guilt because my parents always went to their family's houses in Ohio. Like, they alternated years. Like, that's how they did it. Kyle also had traditions where he was with his dad one year and then mom, and they had their thing. And so we faced this decision of, wait a second, like, my picture of Christmas looks like this, and it's just me and you at our house.
That's great.
But that was really hard
Yeah.
because I didn't want to disappoint my mom and dad, especially my mom, because she is like Buddy the Elf. Like, you should see, her house is nuts with Christmas
I bet.
decorations.
Yeah.
She's so jolly.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to disappoint Kyle's family because
Yeah.
they're also very important to us. But we had to get real. Like, we were just tired. We were both working full time, and we just wanted to have our own Christmas. And so we ended up doing that, where it was just the 2 of us on Christmas Day. We didn't travel anywhere.
Yeah.
And It was awesome.
I love that.
We had a great day. I'll never forget that day. It was sweet, and it was just like our own thing.
Yeah.
And the next year we thought we would have kids, and we didn't have kids yet. But we had so much fun that we did it again.
Yeah.
And from there, then we had my son, and then we had Caroline, and we've done Christmases just the four of us since then. And
did you always stay in Nashville when you did Christmas after the kids too?
Yeah.
You never went to your parents or his parents?
No, we've stayed home.
Wow.
And it's hard. It's still a really hard decision for me because I love the idea of a huge Christmas.
Yeah.
Like a ton of people around the table. Right. I love that thought, that picture.
Yeah.
I love drawing that picture.
Yeah.
But we haven't felt that.
Yeah.
Well,
and I say that because I grew up, I mean, that's kind of how I was. I had my kids, and we lived in Denver, and then we moved to Nashville when they were 3, 4, and 5. Mm-hmm. And so we would get in the car and we would drive from Nashville to Denver every Christmas until my kids were about 8, 9 years old, and they were like, well, Mom, how's Santa gonna find us?
Yeah. They start asking questions.
And I was like, oh, we may need to change this up because it was a lot of work.
Yeah.
You talk about it's a lot of work to just tote 4 kids, go in a van at the time, and drive. Like one time we got caught in an ice storm in Kentucky, and it took us 24 hours. It was absolutely insane. And so we were always, every year, we'd be like, we're not going to do this.
Yeah.
We can't do this forever. We can't. And so, same thing. I knew it was going to upset my parents. They're baby boomers. So they grew up in a way you come to grandma's house.
Yes. This is how we do it. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then I watched my brother's 10 years younger. So he's a millennial. And now he's just we'll go here. We'll go, they kind of are in that same boat. But it's them, when I had to tell my parents, we're going to stay back.
Yeah, that's tough.
Because this is our family now.
Yeah.
And I need to create memories for my kids.
Yeah.
And they've never been here for Christmas. My dad's passed now, but they never came for Christmas. They were very adamant, no. And so, but you have this vision because I think as kids, no matter what age we're in, you grow up watching your cousins, your aunts, your uncles all getting together in the same room, and you want that for your children. And sometimes it just doesn't happen that way. It just doesn't work out that way.
Yeah.
And there is unmet expectations, if you
Totally.
will. And I think with those unmet expectations, especially as moms, then there's this added pressure of, well, I'm not going to have all the family around, so now I've got to make Christmas extra special.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So speak to that. How do you, when one feels like they've got to create an environment for their children because they've got this picture.
Right.
And yet at the same time, it's how they grew up and they know what that feeling is, but maybe their children are not going to be able to have that same experience.
Man, yeah, that intergenerational thing is huge, as y'all have been talking about this, because every generation has a different mindset and approach, and this is how it's done, and that's always shifting. And so the more proactive you can be on communicating, the better. Man, when you're talking about that, Mom, I don't have kids yet, like I said, but gosh, when you were saying that, I just felt exhausted for her. I just felt oh my gosh. Recently I threw a baby shower for a friend, and I remember struggling with that, the Pinterest perfect thing. And do I get this it was little goose and chicken theme of the chickies. And I was like, well, do I get these things on Etsy? And do I, how far do I go?
Yeah.
And so I would say you get to choose the kind of Christmas morning you want to have. Yeah. And if you choose that, you might think you want it, but actually what you want is hey, we have a box of Bisquick, we're making pancakes. We're not, it's no big deal because we're together and I'm not going to be stressed out over this production. Yeah. So I don't know. I think that trusting your own experience, if you've done that before in the past, we've talked a lot about mom pressure. You were at the park one time, this lady cut out the little sandwiches, or perfect little shapes.
I was so mad that day. I was this is stupid.
And your kids are eating out of a plastic bag, whatever.
Brought her pretzels and a granola bar. I'm this is as good as it gets today,
Yeah.
kids. That's where I'm
Yeah.
at. Yeah.
So it's just like, is that the thing you think you want is not actually probably what you want? Like you want
Right.
peace, you
Right.
want joy, you want connection. And if you're yelling at your daughter because she got a stain on her dress that she's supposed to be in for family pictures, like, is
Yeah.
that
Is it
the
worth
Christmas
it?
you want? Yeah. So I'm totally stepping out of my authority here. Don't have kids, but I just, when you're saying that, I felt tired. You know, I felt like, man, we put so much on ourselves. Yeah, and that actually reminds me of another paradigm that I think will be helpful for those listening when it comes to unmet longing, whether it's the little things like my family picture didn't turn out the way I wanted, or the big things like, where is my family? I don't have a family. Going back to that car analogy, when we think about the person who wants to toss the thing out the car, I like to call that the frozen approach, where we shut down. We just bury our desire. Think about keeping out in a deep freezer in your garage, pretend like it doesn't exist. Or you can take the fragile approach, which is where you will get what you want at all costs. For me in dating, this looked like one time I was kind of dating two guys at the same time, like two roommates. It was like not good. It was terrible. I was like violating like my own values, like how I wanted to proceed in the world, and it was really bad. But so sometimes that, like when you talked about that woman who feels pressure, gripping at every little thing, like I'm gonna make it happen, that's a very fragile response. We are the victims of our own desires. We're not really the ones in control. We'll compromise, we'll cut corners, we become anxious, stressed. But on that frozen end, I remember talking to a friend in the process of writing my book, and she was talking about, she's like, I haven't dated in years, and I don't even want to, because it's so scary. It's so scary to think about getting my hopes up. I've been there. We all toggle between the two. Sometimes we're more frozen, sometimes we're more fragile. So as you enter the holidays, just think about, like, where do I tend to be? And is this holiday season going to make me feel tempted to shut down and bury my hope? Or is it going to make me feel tempted to be anxious and controlling and fragile? Either way, you're playing the victim. You're playing the victim of your circumstances. In the middle, though, where the tension is, where God wants us to walk, is to walk by faith. People of faith are honest about what they're feeling, and they dust themselves off and they move forward, right?
Girl.
They're not either or. They're not giving in and they're not ignoring. They are saying, God, I trust you. I don't really like this, but I'm going to move forward because this is the day you have made, and I'm going to rejoice and be glad in it. So reject the frozen, reject the fragile, and choose to walk by faith as you walk into these holiday seasons, no matter what God has for you.
I love that. I almost just want to end on that.
That's great.
It's so good. You did say something about that being together. I mean, that is, to be honest, that's really what it is. Is as the holidays approach, it is being together. I think about, a story to add. My kids, obviously, they're older, but they'll always tell us the best Christmas they had was the one that we've had hardly any money. And it was because we gave them each $20, and they had to go buy 3 gifts, sibling gifts for themselves, and we took them to a discounted store, and they'll go by and they'll see it and they're like, that was the best Christmas ever.
Wow, that's cool.
Because it was just like, so don't discount the things that we may think are minimal or are not enough.
Yeah.
That it's like you're saying, we're driving in these cars, and it's really about what is our attitude towards the circumstances that we're in, and that's how you make the best of it. It's being thoughtful. God, give me your creativity, give me your visions of what you want me to do for this holiday season. So don't discount the small things.
I love that. Such a great story.
Yeah.
Well, Rachel, I love you.
I love you too.
This is so
Thank you guys for
encouraging.
having me.
Okay, so When It Hurts to Hope.
Yes, ma'am.
That's your book.
Yep.
Where can people find you and look you up?
Yeah, my website is rachelmillerauthor.com. You can buy the book on Amazon, a couple other spots online. I've been on a hiatus, but I do post on Substack. Chronicles of Hope is my Substack, so if you want to check that out. And I've also been taking a little bit of break, but I'm on Instagram at rachel.s.miller. So yeah, this was a lovely conversation. Thank you so
Rachel.
much for having me.
Thank you so much. All right.